This chapter presents the geographical locations, culture, and tourist attractions of the countries in Europe. For all these cultural and historical reasons, most geographers consider Europe a separate continent. It is also the most popular tourist destination in the world, and the most important source of tourists to other parts of the world. At the end of this chapter, the students will be able to 1. Identify the countries found in Europe, 2. Name the national facts and information of each country, 3. Locate each European country on the map, and 4. Explain the tourism appeal of the countries in Europe. Europe as defined by the UN World Tourism Organization includes the Russian Federation and the Central Asian republics, whereas we are concerned only with the geographical continent of Europe, which continues to dominate world tourism, despite amounting to less than 10% of the world's population and an even smaller share of the total land area. It includes 5 out of the world's top 10 destination countries and accounts for half the world's receipts from international tourism. The strong economies in the region still account for top tourist-generating countries, dominating the outbound flow of international travel, and also generate massive demand for domestic trips. Europe is preeminent in the world's tourism system for the following reasons. 1. Most of Europe's economies are advanced. The population, though aging, is in general affluent, mobile and has a high propensity to travel. 2. Europe consists of a rich mosaic of languages, cultural resources, and tourist attractions of world caliber. 3. The adoption of the single European currency, the euro, in many European countries has facilitated tourism. 4. Europe comprises many relatively small countries in close proximity, encouraging a high volume of short international trips. 5. The climatic differences within the region are significant, leading since the 1950s to a considerable flow of sun-seeking tourists from northern Europe to the south. 6. Europe's tourism infrastructure is mature and of a high standard. The tourism sector throughout most of the region is highly developed, and standards of service, though not the best in the world, are good. 7. Most European governments have well-funded, competent tourist authorities with marketing and development powers. Europe is a continent located in the northern and eastern hemisphere. It is bordered by the Atlantic Ocean to the west, Arctic Ocean to the north, Asia to the east, and the Mediterranean Sea to the south. Europe is a distinct continent that is not in all directions covered by water and has an overland boundary with neighboring Asia. Politically, Armenia and Cyprus are considered European countries, although they are situated geographically in the territories of Western Asia. The story behind the name Europe. The name Europe has long been thought to have been derived from the ancient myth of Zeus and Phoenician princess Europa. Transformed himself into a magnificent white bull and slowly approached her from the sea, abducting her to the Isle of Crete. On Crete, Zeus and Europa became lovers and she bore him 3 famous sons. Physically, but not culturally, Europe is a western extension of Asia, a peninsula surrounded on 3 sides by sea. Its eastern boundary is rather indeterminate, and is in fact straddled by 2 important nations, Russia and Turkey. Within Europe we can distinguish 2 major physical/climatic divisions, north and south, separated by a series of mountain ranges such as the Alps. The dominant feature of northern Europe is a lowland plain, crossed by many rivers, and extending from southern England to the Urals in Russia, with the remnants of worn-down mountain systems along its periphery. It is on this plain that the major industries and cities are located, and therefore it acts as the source of many tourists to the rest of Europe. Southern Europe, on the other hand, is hilly or mountainous, containing only small pockets of fertile lowland, and with few inland waterways of any length. Europe's mountain ranges act as a major influence on weather systems, in the past were barriers to communications and nowadays are seen as a recreational and tourism resource for both winter sports and lakes and mountains summer holidays. The most important are the Alps, a series of high mountain ranges extending in an arc from southeastern France to Austria and Slovenia. Their great height is due to geologically recent earth movements, while the valleys were widened and deepened by glaciers during the last ice age. A number of large lakes were formed as a result of moraines, accumulations of glacial debris, blocking the valleys. The Pyrenees, the mountain ranges extending from the Bay of Biscay east to the Mediterranean, and forming the boundary between France and Spain. The Balkan Peninsula consists of a complex system of mountain ranges in southeastern Europe bordered by the Adriatic, Aegean, and Black Seas. Earthquakes are frequent in this region. There is a striking contrast between the coastlands that enjoy a Mediterranean climate and the interior that experiences harsh winters. The Carpathians, a series of mountain ranges forming a crescent around the plains of the Pannonian Basin in the heart of Europe. The Caucasus lie far to the southeast, between the Black Sea and the Caspian, which is not really a sea, but a vast, partially saline lake. These mountains rise to even greater altitudes than the Alps. The Kajalen Mountains form the spine of the Scandinavian peninsula. They differ from the other ranges in being geologically stable, the remnants of a much older mountain system than the Alps, and over the ages they have been worn down to a series of high plateaus rather than forming rugged mountain peaks. Europe's seas also deserve consideration in view of the importance of coastal tourism. In most countries with a coastline, more than two-thirds of the accommodation stock is found at the seaside. Tourism is, however, only one of many uses of the coast, with the result that pollution and degradation of the marine ecosystems are serious problems. This is especially true of the Mediterranean, which is virtually an inland sea. Not only are there a number of large industrial cities on the coast, but the Mediterranean also attracts over 1 million holidaymakers each summer, far in excess of any other body of water of similar size. In other words, the Mediterranean accounts for only 0.7% of the world's sea area, but its shoreline attracts almost 20% of the world's international tourism arrival. The importance of the Baltic Sea as a major focus for summer tourism is likely to increase as a result of climate change. Like the Mediterranean, it is almost enclosed, but the water is brackish rather than saline, and it is rather shallow, so its northern reaches are often ice-covered in winter. It is also the repository of many rivers and much industrial waste, particularly from the countries of the former Eastern Bloc, where environmental controls are less stringent than those of Germany and Scandinavia. Climatically, Europe is very varied. On the western fringes of the European plain, Atlantic influences keep the climate mild, but unpredictable, whilst the further east one travels, the more extreme are the temperatures in both summer and winter. In the mountains, long periods of high pressure bring clear skies and excellent visibility, whilst the Mediterranean climate is judged to be just about perfect for most tourism activities, with hot sunny summers and mild winters. Nonetheless, Europe has not escaped the effects of change, with many winter sports resorts suffering from a lack of snow and countries in the south of the region experiencing prolonged heat waves in summer. Europe has resisted the trend towards homogenization, with national and even regional cultures, languages, and traditions continuing to flourish. These cultural differences are rooted in history and partly determined by language and religion. The most striking differences in lifestyles, cultural traits, and perhaps national temperaments are those between Northern Europe and the Latin Southwest, so called because its languages, notably French, Italian, Portuguese, and Spanish, are derived from Latin, the language of the Roman Empire, which once dominated southern Europe, and later the language of the Roman Catholic Church. Whereas the Protestant Reformation of the 16th century came to dominate most of Northern Europe, it failed to take root south of the Alps. Between Western and Eastern Europe, the differences go much further back in time than the Cold War division of Europe between Russia and the Western powers between 1945 and 1989. Whereas Roman Catholicism dominated Western Europe in the Middle Ages, the eastern part of the continent was much more influenced by the Orthodox version of Christianity based at Constantinople. In the East, subsequent political and economic development was also disrupted by invaders from Asia. The differences between East and West are shown in their starkest form in the conflict between Catholic Croats, Orthodox Serbs and Muslims in Bosnia-Herzegovina. In contrast, in Western Europe, the tensions between Catholics and Protestants that culminated in the 30 Years' War, 1618–1648, have to a large extent disappeared, with the notable exception of Northern Ireland. Many of the mountain regions of Europe contain communities that are culturally different from those of the surrounding lowlands. Their former isolation helped preserve traditional lifestyles, but these are now increasingly under threat, partly as a result of tourism and second home development by affluent city dwellers. Another reason for Europe's special status is that for most of the past 500 years, Europe has been one of the most important regions of the world economically, politically, and militarily. Starting in the 15th century, European explorers ventured out to other parts of the world seeking to expand their economic influence. They established colonies in Asia, the Americas, Africa, and elsewhere. Through their colonies, they introduced new models of economic and political development. Today, those colonies have influences in the form of special trade relationships, as tourist destinations for Europeans, and as sources of immigrants to European countries. Europe's culture is rooted in the arts, architecture, film, different kinds of music, economics, literature, and philosophy that originated from Europe's mainland. European culture is deeply rooted in what is often referred to as its traditional cultural heritage. In Europe there are some 160 culturally distinct groups, including some groups in the Caucasus region that have affinities with Asia. Europe is popular for its diversity, rich cultural heritage, and variance in food and traditions. When people think of Europe, they look up to it as a continent composed of first-world countries of great cultural beginnings with a vibrant past from centuries ago and impressive buildings and architectures that stand as a witness from all its glorious history. While it offers comfort and luxury as a Western destination, it is rich in valuable customs and traditions as practiced by European citizens. Europe has one of the world's highest population densities, squeezed into one of the smallest major geographic realms. Within the small land area of Europe, numerous languages and cultural traditions exists, as does a great variety of landform and climatic conditions, all of which serve to enhance its tourism attractiveness. After Australia, Europe is considered as the second smallest continent. In terms of land area, Europe is also a continent that is home to more than a quarter of the world's countries. The climate of Europe ranges from Arctic conditions to temperate in the south. Every world religion is practiced in Europe and hundreds of languages are spoken as well. As a continent, Europe is composed of 44 countries. Russia is considered the largest country, and the Vatican, as a city within the city, is the smallest in Europe. Some of the languages widely spoken are Russian, German, French, Italian, Spanish, Polish, Ukrainian, Romanian, and Dutch. The highest peak is known as the Mount Elbrus, which is located in Russia, and the Volga River still in Russia is the longest river in Europe continent. Here are the different countries of Europe with their corresponding flags, capital, languages, and people. Croatia is a Central European and Mediterranean country. The main population centers are Zagreb, the capital, also called a city of museum as there are more of them per square foot than any other city in the world. Croats speak Croatian, a South Slavic language of the Indo-European family. Dobro jutro. It is a Croatian phrase for good morning. Croatian flag indicates tricolor background is red, white, and blue according to ancient and heraldic traditions. Much symbolism is associated with colors. The colors on the Croatian flag represent the following: white, peace and honesty; red, hardiness, bravery, strength and valor; blue, vigilance, truth, and loyalty, perseverance and justice. The basic style shown in the picture of the Croatian flag is described as emblem, reflecting the central design of the flag pattern of the red and white checkered Croatian coat of arms.